Wednesday, October 21st. I'm Mayor Jim Langfelder, City of Springfield. Welcome to our Facebook Live. We really appreciate you tuning in. And we got started with Facebook Live, of course, with the coronavirus and how we can better engage the public. As we've gone along, we've shown the importance of getting engaged with other activities that happen. And today I'm really excited to have two individuals that have been active in our community that not only impact Springfield, but also the surrounding communities, because, Springfield can be like a metro area, but we have bedroom communities that we do impact. And with me today, and I'll do formal introductions after I give an update, but Dominic Watson, he's with the he's the CEO of the Black Chamber of Commerce. He's been involved with a number of organizations like the Sangamon Springfield Growth Alliance, as I am, and the Community Foundation as well, and some other activities. And then also John Strenstopher, he's the president and CEO for the Community Foundation of the Land of Lincoln. So they've done a lot of engagement, making contributions to the public during the pandemic and beyond that, and even before that. So we really appreciate both them joining us today. But with regards to where we're at on the coronavirus, our numbers have spiked up. It is concerning because Illinois is divided into regions, and we're in Region 3. And with our region, we've seen an increase in numbers. And so that is concerning because the whole goal is to stay where we're at and move forward. So the next phase would be essentially phase 5 when a vaccine comes. We're in phase 4. And what's important is for our restaurants to stay open and our retailers, things of that nature. But it's important that we all try to be remain vigilant with the virus since there's no vaccine. I know it sounds redundant and it might be kind of falling on deaf ears because it becomes a mutated noise, and we've been pushing it so long. But it is really important to wear your mask, your face covering, of course, the proper way over your nose and mouth when you're out in public. And actually, when I have my granddaughter at home, I don't want to infect her. I'm not, or even take that risk. So I always wear it around her. She's an infant child, and there have been some cases where infants have actually caught the virus. The other one is washing your hands as frequently as possible. That's important. And just keep that good hygiene. But again, keeping your social distance when you're with others at home or in the workplace or outside in public, 6 feet apart. And if you can't, wear your face covering. But where we're at with regards to numbers, we have a positivity rate of 7.3%. And just to give you kind of a gauge for that, if our area is 8% positivity rate 3 days in a row, that gives us a warning level with regards to the state of Illinois. And then the other number to be cognizant of is the 100,000 per 100,000 infection rate. Last time I checked, it was 176. Well, that needs to be below 50. And so I think we've been in that range above 106 times. But it's important that those two numbers are a driver, and we're in a dual warning stage. And other areas up north, they've been rolled back. I know in the bars and restaurants since October 3rd, I think in the Rockford area, where they've had limited operations. And we do not want to put our restaurants or bars into that position, because it does create another set of circumstances with regards to our neighbors, their ability to work, their ability to put food on the table and pay their bills. So it's important that we all participate as much as possible, whether we like it or not. It's the conscientious, respectful thing to do, is to protect others as well as your family, so we don't continue to spread the direction we're going. The other item I will point out is the intensive care unit occupancy. Right now, we are at the occupancy rate of 60%, which is somewhat high, but that's not all COVID related. We have great medical providers, and they are a regional provider of healthcare services. So that does reflect numbers outside this area with regards to Sangamon County. But the ones we can control are the positivity rate and the infection rate per 100,000. It's important that we do what we can. And what I've noticed is with schools are back in session, they've been operating well, especially the parochial schools, which we appreciate them taking that extra care for their loved ones and students and the young people. But outside of that, what I've noticed is, or what we've heard, is that social events or activities seem to, people let their guard down because they're around their friends or around their family, and they think that they will not spread it as much. But you still can spread it even though you're related. And that's why for my family, we continue to keep our social distance and things of that nature. So it's good to be cognizant of that. Don't let your guard down. It doesn't matter if you know the person or not. You should always carry the same guidelines with regards to wearing your face covering, washing your hands, keeping your social distance, whoever you're around. And that's the important way that we'll get through this together through the end of the year until a vaccine finally comes our way. So those are the important things I wanted to share with you today. But why don't we jump into our guests, because I want to give them as much time as possible, and then we can wrap it up with a few loose ends that I need to tie up. But first, I'll introduce Dominic Watson. Dominic, as I said, is the CEO for the Black Chamber of Commerce. I first got to know Dominic, I believe he used to work at the state level, and got to know him as being active in the community. I believe at that time it was over in the Enos Park neighborhood. And he's been very active in our community, which we appreciate. So Dominic, if you'd like to share anything you would about yourself and then your organization, and then I'll introduce John after that. So Dominic, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity to join you on today. You know, we're very, very busy at the Black Chamber. We're working diligently behind the scenes to ensure that all Black business owners and Black entrepreneurs, Black professionals, and just the greater Black community is heard during this time. We were fortunate enough to have quite a few activities during this COVID time that highlights the need for support for Black businesses. We were fortunate enough again to receive a grant from the COVID Relief Fund that the Community Foundation and United Way of Central Illinois was dispersing. And again, we received $20,000 for COVID relief. We were able to assist Black businesses in getting PPE. We were able to point them in the direction of PPP, and then we're able to connect them with financial institutions that were assisting with PPE. And then also we were able to just come up with creative opportunities to drive revenue to minority businesses. And again, during my time over the last 4 years as CEO and president of the Springfield Black Chamber of Commerce, we completely revamped our strategy. And now we're really, really focused on training, retention, and development of minority businesses and future Black business owners. So with that being said, I know we'll get into some of the meat and teeth of what we're here to talk about, but thank you for having me.
Well, I appreciate it. And one of the things that Dominic had participated in the 217 Black Chamber support for businesses, and I know it was after one of the marches or the peaceful protests, which we appreciate, because what the pandemic has done, it's taken us new directions that nobody was even aware of. And I think it's re-engaged the public in general, but especially for our minority community. And voices are finally being heard that might not have been heard or might have been frustrated. And it's really pointed out, even though we've made great strides there, we have a long way to go. So people truly are equal or consider themselves being equal. And, you know, I think that's the importance of recognizing activities like that, because we want to support all our local businesses, of course, but there's times where you have to point out, well, it's important to support the minority business owners as we do for downtown businesses. And it's not a knock against anybody else, but they are struggling at different levels, capacity levels. So if you could speak to that, I'd appreciate it as far as the importance of showing that initiative at different parts of time.
No, absolutely. As we know, historically, Black businesses have long been on the wrong side of history as it relates to funding opportunities, even ways they could market to the greater communities in which they service. But we do understand that oftentimes Black business owners are committed to the community, even on the backs of their own revenue and sustainability. So, Black businesses are the cornerstone, even with, what we've seen in the past year or so with activism at an all-time high as it relates to injustice and speaking out. And behind the scenes, even, in front of the cameras, we've seen Black business owners actually stand up, fund opportunities, feed those who are in need, and march. Historically, that's taken place too, not just here in Springfield as of late. So again, Black business owners, Black businesses, Black entrepreneurs, Black young professionals, the Black community, in my opinion, are the backbones of our greater communities.
Yeah, they're definitely an important cog, just like all small businesses are in any community. It's important. And one shout out I will give, because it was an educational moment for me back in my banking days when I was in banking, was with Mike Pittman. Mike Pittman was a developer. I know he holds a director position, I think, with the state of Illinois now, but he really was the first. I think this was back in the 90s. For myself, I was a lot younger than I am today, but he emphasized the importance of spending dollars within your own community. And I think that really hit to the heart of it. So that was way before local first, or supporting local came about. He was really one that lived it and showed the importance of doing that, because it multiplies so many times over your dollar. So if you expend it within your own community, it does multiply, and it helps benefit those that your neighbors, and it goes way beyond that $1 that you're spending. So it does have that multiplier effect. And but I appreciate you being here, and we'll touch on topics like that as we move along. But speaking of having a great impact on dollars and the importance of it locally, John Stretzifer, he's really has the agency that signifies that or exemplifies that, and that's through the Community Foundation of the Land of Lincoln. And John, he's got to show it from the get-go. He actually built it from the ground up, which is a rare opportunity to become the community development engine that it is. It's really changed lives. It helps support lives, even before the pandemic, but also during the pandemic. But I've known him on a personal level, because both our mothers are artists, and they create. If we have any creative bones in our body, that's where it comes from. But it all comes back to the community and what's important. And John's done that through his life, and we really appreciate what he's done, especially with the Community Foundation. So, John, thanks for being here. If you'd give your own introduction, if you like, and then share with us a little bit about the Community Foundation, we'd appreciate it.
Sure. Thanks, Mayor Linkfelder, for having me today. Yeah, I would say I was much better at art appreciation than actual visual arts like my mother. But yeah, thank you for that nice introduction. Just a little bit about my background with the Community Foundation in particular. I've been with the Community Foundation as its first employee since 2003. So over 17 years now, and it's been a real joy in my life to help assist philanthropic people in the community who want to be generous, create a conduit for their own philanthropy. And we continue to grow at the foundation. Even in the last few months during the pandemic, we've had new funds being created, and I think a lot of citizens stepping up to be generous in new and different ways that haven't before, and many who have before who are giving even more so now. So just very briefly on kind of the foundation in what I would call normal times, pre-COVID, we've had a tremendous amount of growth. Since I started 17 years ago, we had under $1 million in assets, and now we're knocking on the door of 45 million in total assets. We are an endowment-based organization, so we go off earnings of those dollars, and this year we should probably eclipse $3 million in grant making. And that's been really because of the now nearly 250 charitable funds that exist at the Community Foundation. So it really is not myself or our staff or even our board, it's the generous citizens of our community that, fuel that engine for philanthropy. This last few months have been remarkable in my career, in how we joined forces with the United Way very early on in early March when this pandemic hit the shores of America, and we were trying to brace ourselves on how to use our own mission to address people in need, especially not-for-profit agencies. So in total, over $900,000 was collected and distributed through the mechanism that we stood up with the United Way. And that went to over 80 organizations. And Dominic was with the Black Chamber was one of those. And it really was quite a whirlwind. I think we had 9 grant cycles in about a 2 to 3 month period to really respond quickly to the pandemic. When people, if you put yourself back in that frame of mind in March and April especially, it was scary and not sure exactly how we would interact for a while with one another, even be able to go to work and in the not-for-profit sector serve people in the way that so many groups serve so well in normal times. So I think the Community Foundation and the volunteers who were part of that whole process are really proud of what we were able to do. As things kind of normed a bit, we started picking up in our traditional role of a grant maker. And just recently, we do this annually where we orchestrate an opportunity for agencies to apply for funding in a general way for any purpose. And it will be announced here more formally here in the next few days, but an additional 150,000 plus, I think, will be going out from funds of the foundation to support not-for-profits in the community. So it really has been kind of in the last 6 months or so bookends with the Rapid Response Fund, and then our traditional, what we call our community grants program, kind of picking up here as things have settled in a bit. I still have great concern for a lot of not-for-profit organizations and how they will survive. I'm hopeful that we will see another stimulus package from the federal government with PPP and other things that can help not-for-profits. I was just on a call earlier today with the state of Illinois, also trying to provide grants out to small businesses in rural areas, which I hope for anyone who's listening out there, they should look that up at the state of Illinois through DCEO. It's important funding that would be in addition to federal funding or any philanthropic funding. So right now, this has been an unusual period for us reacting to this pandemic, and we don't think it's over as far as organizations and people that will be suffering. And we intend to do our level best to be there for the community that we serve.
Well, thanks, John. And you pointed out something really important was that partnership with the United Way. And is that something that was just done locally, or was it statewide, or how'd that come into being?
Yeah, well, came to being early in March when we were on a national conference call from the Seattle Community Foundation, where they had, that if you remember, that's where it first came into the country in a big way, the COVID-19. And I called John Kelker right after that and said, hey, John, and we've partnered with them all the time on a number of issues. And that was an easy call because we're so close with the United Way. And John's like, yes, let's start talking. And our staffs really got together very quickly and stood up that fund. And that started to happen around the state and around the country. We're fortunate in our area that we have such a close relationship with the United Way that we could easily come together. I also was, around that period of time, invited to serve on the statewide COVID response fund, which really was, it was chaired by Penny Pritzker, the governor's sister. And that was a very useful tool for us locally. Of the $900,000 we dispersed, over $500,000 came from the statewide fund. So that was really important. That also, for me personally, I got to witness $35 million being distributed throughout Illinois outside of Cook and Collier counties. There was additional funding from the big foundations up there and philanthropists up there that went directly to Chicago. But I was proud of our state with how philanthropy stepped forward to not just serve in the Chicagoland area, but the entire state of Illinois. that was a remarkable feat as well. And I think also will have a lasting effect on how people can come together from, Cairo to Chicago.
Mm-hmm. Very good. And then have you seen a jump up in, maybe you haven't tracked this, in the number of funds created during the pandemic, or has that kind of been flat or decreased or increased?
I would say it's steady with our normal course of business. We've had a few people kind of re-engage conversations for their estate planning, and I don't know this, but maybe with some time on our hands at home and stay-at-home orders, people are contemplating, especially in this period, not to get too sanctimonious here, but what are we here for? To help others. How are we going to help others and leave a legacy for other people in this community? And so I was excited to know of people's estate plans, that they're going to leave funds to the foundation when they're gone, and those resources will come into play later. But this whole episode, for me, kind of proved the reason why we're here to exist as a community foundation, and to rapidly respond when our community is in need. And again, it was in a different way than we've ever really done it as far as the execution of that. But I know one thing: we need more. We're always going to need more funding, because there will always be needs. As much as we progress as a human race, we're always going to have people in need. So I hope that this period of time will make people even more generous. It certainly hasn't been a waning of that at the Community Foundation. We've seen a steady amount of people contacting us and wanting to still be generous.
Great. And I think you touched on, John, but I'll flip it to Dominic, and then circle back to you, John, to comment for entities with regards to, we're heading into winter, and that brings a whole new different set of challenges, especially for the business community. The outdoor dining experience, I think, was successful, and that'll continue on. But as we move inside, that limits the capacity of businesses. So Dominic, if you could share with us some of your insight on concerns that business owners might have shared, or the direction we need to go from your engagement, and anything you'd like to share on that front as we move into this winter season. That the unknown's still there, but how do we do so successfully?
I think innovation is really important in this conversation right now, because a lot of business owners that we come into contact with on a consistent basis have come up with creative initiatives, creative innovative efforts to kind of offset. I mean, we won't fully replace a lot of the funds that the funding deficit, or not the funding deficit, but the revenue deficit. But if we can offset. So coming up with creative marketing strategies, creative ways to kind of just, offset the lack of revenue are the conversations that are really being had in the business community. I know that, going into winter, again, is going to be hard trying to fill the voids for outdoor seating, et cetera, or even just in general, filling the walk-in traffic void. But I'm optimistic that given the right resources, given the right initiatives that will come about, and the right support, I think that we'll weather the storm, so to speak. But again, we just have to ensure that we mitigate the challenges that are there.
Yeah, it seems like it's been successful when, as John pointed out, on the non-for-profit side, I think on the business side, where you might see competitors coming together to work together to help support one another.
Absolutely, collaboration has been so critical during this time. We've collaborated on quite a few events with the Black restaurant community, the Black fitness and health community. We're working on a few other projects for other industries, but collaboration is everything. Through our efforts with the 217 Black restaurants, with 5 of the 8 participating restaurants, Black restaurants, reporting their numbers, we did in 2 or 3 days, depending on the restaurant, but over $30,000 in revenue. for that weekend. And that's with three of the restaurants not even reporting their numbers. So, I think collaboration, coming up with creative and innovative ways to kind of market a industry as a whole is going to be the key here.
Mm-hmm. Without a doubt. And I know on the non-for-profit side, I'm just bewildered at, usually the economic arm for all non-for-profits are the fundraising activities. Well, those have gone out the window when you have used to getting people to come to a location and have a gathering and do auctions, things of that nature. So I know from the Community Foundation, that's been a life preserver, but can you speak to that, John, from being a funder, the challenges or some of the innovative ways that people may have been changing things up as they move through this pandemic on the non-for-profit side or any other entity?
Yeah, it's very difficult to get together in a fundraiser type of way now. I do see fair share of Zoom events or things like that where people can get together virtually and have a trivia contest, or I just saw the Hoagland's advertising for an arts performance online. But it'll be hard, I believe. I do know that a lot of funds of the foundation continue to grant money for events like that, is to kind of support when they can't go there. I'm hopeful that annual funds are increasing in size when you can just send a check-in or an online contribution as opposed to going and buying your chicken supper or chili bowl or whatever it may be. So hopefully the donor community continues to give. I haven't heard a lot of data on that, but I just from my observations know that organizations are figuring out ways to survive. I think there will be and has been some furloughs or layoffs from some organizations that really rely on ticket sales. If you think of arts organizations or cultural organizations that are hit harder in a different way than those who traditionally get funding from the state or federal government, where you do have maybe even at times an influx of new resources they haven't seen before to serve the poor in some way. So it's really those cultural institutions that I think from a business perspective are really trying to figure out how they're going to weather this storm.
Without a doubt, it's always an evolving situation here. We're roughly 7 months in from the pandemic, and we thought we'd be through this, and we've made great strides, but it's an evolving situation, and that's what's truly amazing about what we're going through right now. And as a reminder, I forgot to say it on the onset, anybody that wished to ask any questions or make comments, you can do so through the Facebook Live feed, or you always can send an email to the City of Springfield at feedback@springfield.il.us. And then for information and also links associated, whether it's at the federal level, state level, or local level, you can go to our webpage at springfield.il.us. We do have a coronavirus page set up, and then also YouTube feeds, things of that nature. So just one real quick, that was my quick household item. I forgot to take care of it from the start. But one thing I know, John, you announced your visioning project, or I should say the Community Foundation's visioning project, which is the Next 10 initiative. So if you would go over that, and I think it brings an exciting aspect or exciting opportunity to not only Springfield, but the region. And then we'll talk about that for a little bit and go from there. So John, if you would share with us that Next Step 10 initiative, we'd appreciate it.
Sure, my pleasure. Well, let me take you back to 2019 for a second. Last year, the Community Foundation Board of Directors did its own strategic planning for the organization and had our goals and initiatives we intended to get going on in 2020. And one of those was a community visioning project. I think maybe I spoke to you late last year, early this year, about our hopes for that and how the city government and citizens would play a role in it. We were very excited. Our February board meeting, we voted to move forward, and then a couple weeks later, a global pandemic hit. So though it delayed our plans a bit, we thought, as we reflected upon COVID-19 and what that has done to our community, we really believe that a visioning project might be more important now than it was prior to the pandemic to do a couple of things. One, to give people some hope and optimism for what the world will look like in this neck of the woods after COVID-19, but also really something for people to think about in their own life as they reflect on a better community. So the whole intent of the next 10 is to really get input right now from the community on their ideas for a better community. It's a pretty simple concept. We announced this last week, the 15th of October, and for a 6-week period from now until Thanksgiving, we're looking for input on any idea that anyone could have on a range of topics for what might make the community a better place in the greater Springfield area. We have a website, which is TN10, that's T as in Tom, N as in Nancy, 10.org. And on that website, people can go and submit an idea on what's called an ideas wall, where it's almost like a virtual Post-it note, where you can put your idea for whatever you want to see for a better community. There's also an interactive mapping feature where you can drop a pin on a physical location in the community that you might want to see improved, or say, hey, this is great, I'd love to have a pocket park here, or whatever it may be. So that's the general idea. And then from there, we've assembled a group of citizens to serve on a steering committee. In fact, Dominic's one of those people who's serving, and it's a group of 10 playing on this 10 notion, who will then help the Community Foundation and other volunteers wrestle with the ideas that come in, and then think through actionable activities, plans that would be announced sometime in early 2021. We're looking at around the first quarter of 2021, where we'd have projects and initiatives announced to the public that we, the Community Foundation, the Steering Committee, and others deem possible. And really the key elements for anything that we would wish to pursue would be, you need a champion for the project, a group that's going to say, hey, we'll take the lead on this and try to implement it the best we can. And 2, some level of resources or funding to go along with the projects, knowing we want these to be based in reality to actually be achieved. Also, and some people have asked with this next 10, what does 10 mean? Well, we're intentionally vague. It could be the next 10 people to get involved, what the next 10 weeks, months, years look like around here. What are the next 10 ideas? Though we're not tying ourselves to 10 ideas announced. We're being kind of vague on that because we don't want to just pick an arbitrary number. We want to be sincere with this and make sure that we're helping promote and push forward things that are achievable. So that's the general idea. We want ideas from the public, and then we want to take the best of them that are feasible and implement them. So it sounds easy. You know it's going to be tough, though, and
that's right.
That's why folks like yourself, Mayor, the City Council, different elected officials in the community, and other leadership organizations, and just every citizen, we hope, can have some idea that they have for a better place. I think all people do, and it's going to take a lot of people working in the same direction to get things going. But I'm very hopeful for it.
Yeah, I think the timing of it is very important. I think you'll gain greater momentum just because the situation we're in environmentally, or the times we're in. So I think it really will help bring people together. I think it'll give them motivation, things of that nature. But I didn't realize Dominic was on the board. I was going to ask him if he had any ideas. He's full of ideas. So, but Dominic, I know I don't want to taint one way or the other, but if you'd share your thoughts about the Next 10 initiative, that'd be great.
Well, I think, excuse me, the best way to describe this is just, opportunity, right? There's a huge opportunity here to really focus our attention on championing ideas, and not only championing ideas, but taking them from idea to conceptualizing to actually, putting them on a path to be successful. And, I can't help but get excited and fired up about it. I think that given the opportunity for all ideas to be heard across the city, regardless of where they're located, or where the ideas are coming from, should I say, are should be commended. And it was an opportunity, again, for me to be at the forefront of assisting in that effort. So I'm full of ideas, Mayor. So I don't want to keep you, John, and yeah, I want to keep you on talking about all the things that I've been conceptualizing in my head and tried to carry out over the last 3 years.
Yeah, I think, and you had some initial projects already submitted, and I think, didn't you show them on Friday on the Armory, or is that a continual reflection that'll be on the Armory wall? Because that's one of that'd be a project I'd like to see with the Armory, and I have a whole list, but I didn't want to flood the the portal before everybody else had a chance to. But if you'd share with us the Armory concept or showing it, and then any ideas that popped that seemed to stand out.
Well, yeah, really the ideas, that's why the website tn10.org is so important, because that's where the ideas are living right now. People submit them and they get up on the website and you can see the specific ideas that people have. And there are a few about the Armory. But last week, we did, really to promote just the notion of the Next 10, we are going around the community and having these pop-up events where we display video images up on buildings. Not necessarily for that building, just to draw attention to the project and get people's creative juices flowing. So last week we did that on Friday night, and I had a number of people come down and look and drive by, and hopefully we're inspired by some of the images up there, and both the imagery and the words of hopefully inspiration for people and their own ideas. And in fact, tomorrow night, Thursday night, it's warm tomorrow night, so people can come out between 6:30 and 8 in the Southtown area at 11th
Great.
and South Grand, which is an area that I know is near to Dominic's heart, and he's been helping us arrange the next pop-up event, which is tomorrow evening, which will be putting up some imagery on the Madison Furniture Building, and another area I think of the community that people want to see revitalized and improved. So we're going to be doing 6 of these during the duration of the campaign for promoting this. So yeah, they're really to focus people on parts of the community that I think we want to see improved, but also not necessarily on the specific property, but really just to get people thinking about what this community looks like and how we can make it better, whether it be the physical environment or in social services or cultural activities. I think we all kind of have this vague idea of what we want to see often, but we now want to take that notion of what the goal is and put into actions that we can partake in to achieve that vision.
Yeah, I think both of you touched on the aspect of champion, but really it's pulling the resources together. And I'm glad you're doing that tomorrow. I don't know if you're going to share, Dominic, any vision of Southtown, but just so people know, I used to work at Sarasota Theaters way back when. And the only marquee around is on Southtown. And actually, as Mayor Davlin, under Mayor Davlin, he had the notion to preserve that, which we're very thankful for, because you fast forward 20 some years and that's the only marquee we have. And so it's really something that stands out in that area. So Dominic, if you'd speak to the importance of bringing groups together, they may be in the area or may not be, but the importance of that, and anything you'd like to share with regards to tomorrow night.
No, so I was happy when John reached out to me in regards to looking at, oftentimes we focus our energy so much on other sides of town and forget about the treasure that East Springfield has, all of the treasures, plural there, that East Springfield has to offer. So I was excited that the second opportunity for a pop-up was taking place in Southtown, and John reached out. Again, we were very fortunate to identify Madison Furniture. The owner, Court Dickinson, and his family have been long-standing business leaders in the Southtown area. So they were very happy, and we're very fortunate to again highlight one of the hidden treasures and not so hidden treasures of the East Side, specifically in Southtown. And there are ongoing efforts to revitalize the area. Again, the Black Chamber of Commerce and myself, we're looking at opportunities to do some redevelopment work in that area, specifically right there on the corner of 11th and South Grand. So we're excited.
Great. And on this whole process, I think if you could speak to John as far as the so you have the concept comes forward, and it's like Benedictine University, Ursula Hall, one of my mom's initiatives she thrust upon me, or something of that nature, Southtown, or the Armory, whatever the case may be. The next step, I would imagine, is getting a nucleus of people, or like you said, maybe a champion or somebody that would it's always important to have. Is probably either the 80-20 rule, 20% of the people do 80% of the work, or someone that really, carries that initiative and continues it. But the importance is you have to connect those financial resources, because we know the need's great. Can you speak to how that process will come to fruition?
Yeah, it really, that's where we will be leaning on Dominic and the other members of the steering committee to help us wrestle with things that seem truly achievable. So from there, I suspect it'll be a number of action teams depending on the ideas that come in and how they form. And then we will probably be calling you, the aldermen, people at city government, to be a champion for a project that would require maybe policy issues to be changed or something, or funding from any source that the government can provide. I think statewide, state elected officials have been informed about this and seem excited, county officials. I think it's going to take all of us to think thoughtfully of those organizations that have resources to deploy. And hopefully this will be a way for the community to kind of speak for what they desire to see happen. But yeah, much of the work after Thanksgiving, and it's already kind of started because we know some general ideas that seem to be quite popular already. And we're not starting from ground zero. I mean, there's been ideas that have been pursued for years or months that kind of have some traction already that hopefully this can help support. So it'll be a lot of orchestrating, honestly. And that's something we do at the Community Foundation. Our mission statement is connecting people who care with causes that matter. Now, typically that's done through funds established at the foundation that make grants. That's kind of where that derives from, but it works in many ways in my experience. I know there's a lot of projects that we work with the city of Springfield on, county government, the United Way, other organizations in the community, supporting projects of Dominic's with the Black Chamber recently, the UIS, you name it. We're the community's foundation, so we hope to play that role in a little different way with this project. But yeah, we want this to be grounded in actionable items that can be implemented in the short term. So like I said, some people have asked, is this a 10-year project? Well, we want to think of what the city looks like, the community looks like 10 years from now, but we're anxious. We want to get things moving in the next year to 3 years, not wait forever to do things. So it's very action focused for the project. And you're right, this will take resources.
Yeah, I think what excites me most about it is, you're a kind of a neutral entity to carry this out, and you have a number of agencies or individuals involved with your organization. So I think it takes that unique perspective. The other, to keep it going through time, that's important because it should be more of a uniter, not a divider with regards to that. The other thing is it's more of a bottoms up approach, because, for myself as mayor, I do have resources, or the city has resources we could deploy. And sometimes we think we are doing the best possible thing, but that's not always the case. It's important that you do hear from those that you're impacting their lives, or how things are happening around them, and they have a different, might have a different concept or a way of addressing certain issues. And so, Dominic, if you could speak to the importance of that and the community engagement from, the bottoms up approach.
Absolutely. I think oftentimes leadership is all about listening to those who are at the ground level, who are, keeping their ears to the ground on a consistent basis. And so with that, I mean, that's the constituency, that's, the community, that's the citizens of Springfield. And so we've seen, in the past, the challenges of pushing concepts and ideas that aren't supported by the greater community as a whole. So you know, being at the front end of community engagement is everything as it relates to a project. So I'm happy that again we're starting at the ground level and then working our way up.
Yeah, John, anything you'd like to add on that concept as far as the community engagement piece of it?
Yeah, it's you know, your comment before about us being neutral. We try to play that role of honest broker best we can, of just when we have conviction for something, we want to pursue it and try to make it better. So we're not neutral necessarily when we want to try to help the homeless citizens of our community, whatever it may be. But we're nonpartisan, we're apolitical. We don't have to get involved with those activities. But so that allows us hopefully to carve out a space where people feel a little more comfortable to submit ideas and know that there's no real partisan agenda involved.
Right.
So that I think is an advantage for us taking the lead on this. But we are also very much realists, I think, at the Community Foundation, that I personally am a believer in government. Political science major. We need government to play a heavy role in these projects. And hopefully this will provide platforms for elected officials to look at, because we want the citizens to speak. We believe in that strongly, that it's the community's foundation. It's the community's city government. We need the citizens to stand up and play a role, because it just won't work if people aren't engaged and committed. Laws are only as good as the people who agree to follow them. So I really think that this is, for me, at the end of the day with this project, I really hope it helps create some excitement, some fun, some enthusiasm, because these are some dark days. Of all of us, and have never lived through a pandemic before. I really hope this can be something that lifts the spirits of the community too, where we can say, hey, what can I do to make this community a better place as well?
And you haven't aged one bit since this whole pandemic, John. It seems like ages, but you're holding up well. But with regard to that, in all seriousness, I think it is the engagement piece is really the one that will be holding it together. And it's just not a project, as we pointed out, like Benedictine campus or out the Armory, Southtown. But it's also about, maybe the sustainability of Springfield, or maybe the connectivity of Springfield. That's another aspect. So as individuals are thinking about it, I'd encourage everybody to go on the website. Again, that's TN, T as in Tom, N as in Nancy, 10, the number 10.org. And so it'd be important to share whatever ideas you have, especially for us. I'm all big about self-critique. How do we do things better, especially with processes or policies? And that's why we do our ward plan meetings, is so we can get individuals' perspective where they live, not only within their area, but they also share with us, their higher priority for the city as a whole. And so I think that's an important concept, and we really appreciate you moving this forward with regards to that, because it is an exciting project. Hopefully I'll have to check my schedule. Hopefully I'll be able to attend tomorrow somewhat, but in a way I don't want to I'd like to hear from individuals, and so they really can have their voices heard, and that way we can use our resources as best as possible to support this initiative, because it will help not only our community grow and be better, but also impact people's lives, especially at a time when we need it the most. And I think this is one way that Springfield is the #1 post-pandemic city in the country. It was because of our affordability, our ability to work remotely, our medical community and things of that nature. But really, it's the people is the most important asset any community has. And this type of initiative will really point that out in the end. And so we really appreciate the Community Foundation and everybody being involved, and that will continue to be involved. So if someone wants to be involved at some level, or in the breakout groups, or think something of that nature, how would they be able to do that?
Yeah, there's an email address associated with the website. It's the info@tn10.org. Please email us. We've had a few people do that already, which is exciting. There's also a survey feature for, your ideas are limited to 500 characters on those two features, so the post-it notes and the map. So if you have longer thoughts you want to share, please do that. And also, I just want to emphasize, though we will announce some specific projects, we want all these ideas to be collected and shared in a transparent way. So even those that won't be kind of formally pursued, we want them to exist somewhere in case someone goes, I really like that idea, I want to just do it. And we don't want to hold them back. So we want people to be involved in any way possible that makes sense for them and the efforts. So please just send us an email, or you can call the Community Foundation always as well at 789-4431.
789-4431.
Yep.
And then the email again is info@tn10.org. And I think the important concept is putting plans into action. I think that's what this all points to, and the importance of that. And that's one of the things that frustrates people when, especially when we take action on the city council. I hear it all the time. Well, we're doing another study or doing another plan, and we have enough plans. We just need to put them into play. And it is important to show that activity or that action so people can visually see it. And so we really appreciate you moving the ball forward in that direction.
Well, and those, I totally understand that point you make, and we are trying to inform our work with those plans that have already been conducted, and we do a citizen survey every couple of years along with United Way and UIS that helps inform some of our thinking on this. But Mayor, I've often heard you say that the greatest asset of the city is its people, and I agree, and it will take not just people with some level of leadership and authority by position, but the citizens to step forward and really enact whatever it is that's pursued. So I always appreciate when you say that, and I also believe it.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you very much. And you're one of those, without a doubt, and your family. It's all about families in Springfield. And Dominic is really an up-and-coming individual as well. So Dominic, with your organization, how can people get more involved with regards to the Black Chamber of Commerce or the 217 initiative?
So they can go directly to our website, Springfield spelled out, bcc.org. And it'll, again, up to date, all the information you need. Most of our activities during this time have been completely automated with me following up personally. So you can just go to the contact us portion of our page and then just submit all the information that you want. And then I'll follow up with you, or someone from the Black Chamber will follow up. You want to call our office, 217-753-3551.
753-3551.
Correct.
And then that website was bcc.org?
Springfield Black Chamber of Commerce. So
Springfield
BCC.
Springfield BCC.
Springfield spelled out, bcc.org.
Okay, got it. Yep, well, very good. Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's all about relationships. So it doesn't matter if you're involved with the foundation or the Black Chamber of Commerce or the Chamber of Commerce or a business or in government. It's about those personal relationships that really transcend lives. And even though I prefer meeting in person, I prefer talking over emails or texting, but it is important with that personal contact, because it does help us get through this challenging time that we're all facing. And I think, I'm very optimistic what lies ahead for us. So I really appreciate both of you taking the time out, especially with the 10 initiative, the next 10. And so again, if you want to get involved, you can go to, or just email info@tn10.org, or go tomorrow night at 6:30. Is that just in front of Clay's Barbecue, or is it, or just in front of Madison Furniture, or what's the gathering place at 6:30 tomorrow night?
I think we're scouting out the logistics tonight, Mayor. The general area.
Yeah, and the goal is to be in front of or around about the Madison Furniture Store. So 1104 South Grand Avenue.
Yeah, 1104. And if you forget the number of the address, all you have to do is look for the only marquee in Springfield on South Grand. It's right there right east of 11th Street. But yeah, we really appreciate both of you joining us. So if you'd like to have any closing comments, Dominic, and then I'll wrap it up at the end. And John, you can follow.
No, absolutely.
So
I think, you know, like you said, Mayor, the theme of this conversation has been collaboration. And I think one of the things that COVID has illustrated for us as a community, that collaboration is everything. So regardless of what side of town you live on, regardless of color of your skin or business community you represent, collaboration is everything. So again, we can't do it alone. And if we're going to shift and move Springfield forward, we have to do it together.
Well, thank you very much. And thank you for moving that initiative forward. Well said.
Thank you.
John, thanks for being here.
Hey, I think Dominic said it perfectly. So kudos to you, Dominic. You're one of my favorite guys in town.
Thank you. Thanks, Coach.
That's good. But the one thing, and if you do have ideas, I'm going to throw it out here because in tribute to my mother, because the Y block, I know you had an activity on the Y block, right, Dominic?
Absolutely.
For the restaurants. Yeah, we appreciate it. And so if you have any ideas for the Y block, you can submit those. But my mother served on the YWCA board for a long time, and it's in her final days. We're driving by the building, and she goes, "You're not going to be able to save it." And I said, "No, Mom, we're not going to be able to save it. The roof's kind of caved in, and it's water, things of that nature." And she said, "Well, you better save Ursula Hall." Well, I didn't even know what Ursula Hall was, but John does because it was part of Ursuline Academy. And so you look at Benedictine, that campus, it has the Brinkerhoff home. It has Ursula Hall, which is a great facility. I did take a tour of it. It could be a great entertainment dining venue because it's just kind of the old time setup with regards to music rooms. I think on the upper floor had music rooms set up, things of that nature, but it could really be something grand. But of course, it takes those financial resources. But you have that campus there that's tied into the post home on the hill that, most people don't realize those gems within our own community. So your initiative will help open the eyes to individuals. How can we make these gems, bring them back to life to really help transform one another, transform people's lives, and really bring our community to the point that we want it to be, really to be the model city that we know it can be. And it's working together that will get us there. So really what is right in front of us, I encourage everybody to go tomorrow night at 6:30 over to Southtown area, which right off 11th and South Grand, to see what's happening. It's a very exciting time. But as we do that, of course, we have to wear a mask when we're outside. Even when you're outside, wear your mask. Because I see people thinking, we're outside, we don't have to wear the mask. That's not the case. Still wear your mask if you're in close proximity of others. And then, of course, at work or what have you, wash your hands frequently. And get your flu shot. That is very important. I did it for the first time this year because it does give you, I believe, an added layer of protection. And we just don't know what tomorrow will bring. But one thing's for sure that we all need to strive for, and that's been my goal, and I try to challenge others to do this. We always want to make today better than yesterday and tomorrow better than today. And with the Next 10 initiative, we're on the right path to making that happen. So thank you, Dominic, for participating, and you, John, we really appreciate participating not only today, but the great work that you've done and continue to do for our community. So thank you very much, and hopefully we'll see everybody next week on Wednesday at noon for Facebook Live.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.